Is Purdue Boilermaker basketball coach Matt Painter in trouble if Purdue gets bounced early in March again? Maybe? Let's discuss it. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We always appreciate it. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And, of course, today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. All right, pressure on Matt Painter. I know they just won the Big Ten championship outright, but it's what you do after that we got to talk about. Latest news in the Big Ten and our power rankings midweek. We always do that. Be sure to subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcasts. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Wouldn't want you to miss one. All right, Tuesday night, the Purdue Boilermakers, they beat Illinois 77-71. They win the Big Ten regular season title outright again. Zach Edey was the real deal as usual, 28 points and 8 rebounds as the Boilers became the first team in 17 years to win consecutive regular season Big Ten championships. So congratulations to them. The Boilers finished their regular season at home for senior night against Wisconsin this weekend. Then the postseason begins, and that's where I want this conversation to start because there's an underlying problem. Matt Painter is a great basketball coach, but his teams have an annual knack for coming up short in March. Purdue regularly wins regular season and Big Ten tournament championships. Recent years, they have been a mainstay among the top-ranked teams in the country. Even many stints as a number one team in the country regularly. Again, a lot of credit goes to Matt Painter and the types of kids that he recruits and, of course, his ability to coach this basketball team. A little bit about Matt Painter. You know, he grew up in nearby Fort Wayne and Muncie, Indiana. He was a huge Indiana fan and a huge Bob Knight fan. And he wanted to play for IU, but Bob Knight never offered him a scholarship. So he played for Gene Keady and the Boilermakers from 1989 to 1993. And after several assistant coaching stops and after a brief stop as the head coach at Southern Illinois, he came to work for Gene Keady, kind of a transitional period as Purdue's associate head coach from 2004 to 2005. And in 2005, when Gene Keady retired, he became the head coach of the Purdue Boilermakers. He has been there ever since, and he's won a lot of games. In fact, he's won over 400 games. Only 5 people have done that. He's won 5 Big Ten regular season titles, including the last 2. He has won 2 Big Ten tournament titles, including last year. He's been the Big Ten Coach of the Year 4 times and might get it again this year. And at age 53, he is already in the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. So what's the problem, you say? There's no way anybody would get rid of a coach like that. Maybe, but he's 17-14 in the NCAA tournament. Look, good job getting to the tournament that many times, almost every year. But the Boilermakers rarely get past the first weekend. Why is that? Purdue has had some really good teams good enough to make the Final Four recently, but for whatever reason, they don't make it that far. Purdue, as proud and boisterous as their fan base is, and by the way, Mackey Arena is one of the most deafening home crowd advantages in all of sports. But those fans, between you and me, have a little bit of an inferiority complex about the fact that there's not a single national championship banner hanging in Mackey Arena. Why do I say inferiority complex? Well, because 90 miles to the south, an Indiana University fan base, which hasn't seen a team make a Final Four in 22 years, proudly waves its large and obvious 5 national championship banners at Assembly Hall. That upsets Boilermaker fans. They will never admit it, but it burns inside of them like an ulcer. No matter what happens this week or next week's Big Ten tournament, the Purdue Boilermakers will be a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. No question. After Selection Sunday, I mean, they've earned it. They've got 11 quad 1 wins, most in the country, 7-0 against ranked teams now after last night's win against Illinois. Incredible resume. Fantastic. They're in great shape. They were a number 1 seed last year, by the way, and they suffered an embarrassing first-round loss to Fairleigh Dickinson. It was just the second time in history that a 16 seed beat a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. What made that loss even worse was the fact that it marked the 3rd consecutive year that Matt Painter and the Boilermakers lost to a double-digit seed in the NCAA tournament. That's right. The year before, Painter and the Boilermakers lost to 15 seed St. Peter's. And that was in the Sweet 16, by the way. It was the first time a 15 seed had ever won a Sweet 16 game ever. Went on to the Elite 8. In 2021, Painter and the Boilers lost to 13 seed North Texas in overtime in the first round. At some point, Purdue fans got to be going, man, what's it going to take? How do we get to the next level? How do we hang a banner in this place? I'll look at Painter's contract. Pays him $3.67 million this year, and he'll earn a retention bonus of $450,000 if he's still at Purdue on September 1st, 2024. He's on a continuous 5-year rollover. It's a nice contract. But I looked it up. His buyout is just $1 million. That is surprisingly low. Surprisingly cheap if Purdue would ever decide they wanted to go in a different direction or get somebody that can get them to the next level. It's happened before in sports. It sounds ridiculous, but it's happened before. So we thought we'd do our homework and look it up. But before we go too far into this, I'll go back to what I said at the very beginning. Painter's a really good basketball coach, and he's as Purdue gets. So who would they get to replace him? Would they get somebody better? Who would be better, by the way, than him at Purdue? I don't know of that person. And by the way, if they ever let him go, he'd be employed by somebody else in about 5 minutes. He's really respected among the basketball world, and it would not take him long to find another gig. There's no question about it. But if this Purdue team, which is good enough to win, in fact, it's good enough to win it all and get to the Final Four at a minimum, if it falls short in a couple of weeks, we're not here at Lockdown Big Ten going to be the only ones talking about this. Podcasts and talk show hosts all across America will be talking about it. So we thought we'd get ahead of the curve a little bit and get your thoughts. Many ways for you to contact me, of course, on Twitter, X, at Talk Big Ten, comments on YouTube. Don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. Would love to hear from you on all of that. All right. Coming up, more expansion talk for the Big Ten. Every time we talk about this, everybody's antenna goes up a little bit. We've talked about a lot of different schools. Well, how do you feel about Utah? Utah. Yep, somebody's writing about it. I thought I'd throw it out there and do the pros and cons on that. Plus, it's the middle of the week. It's time for our power rankings for Big Ten men's basketball. And this is, we're getting down to the end of the season here. So this is crunch time. So we'll take care of all of that. That's all coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. I don't know if you're planning on going to any games, the season finales. Maybe you want to try and get a ticket to go to Mackey Arena for senior night this weekend for the last regular season game. Maybe you want to go to a tournament game in March. Whatever the case may be, get GameTime. GameTime will get you there, and they take all the worry out of it. They make it very simple, especially if you're the guy. You're like, hey, let's go to the game. Great. Oh, who's getting the tickets? Oh, me. Well, go to the GameTime app, and you'll get them. GameTime is fast and easy. Great way to buy tickets for all the sporting events. Plus, it's not just sporting events. Music events, concerts, comedy, theater events. They have it all on GameTime. And they've got great last-minute deals. Make everything really convenient for you. They have views from the seat you're about to buy on your phone. You can see. Make sure it's not blocked or a bad ticket, a bad seat in the house. You can find all that out in advance. They got the lowest price guarantee. event cancellation protection, all that right there. And you can get game time tickets right up to the start of the event. In fact, really, an hour after it starts. If you're like West Coast, LA, traffic's bad, whatever, you can still get the tickets. And they've got zone deals where you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big time savings. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKED ON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, and the redeem code is LOCKED ON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with Game Time. I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. You everydayers out there is what makes us go. If you're occasional or you know a friend that likes Big Ten or is a grad or an alum, tell them about us. Spread the word, word of mouth. We're here every day. Talk about all the teams in the Big Ten. Locked On Big Ten, your team every day is what we say. But I like to add your teams every day. We do them all right here. And don't forget to check out our website, talkbig10 10.com as well. All right. How do you feel about Utah in the Big Ten, right? Why am I talking about this? Well, there's never-ending talk about Big Ten expansion. And if you're like me, we're convinced the conference will not remain at 18 games. We've analyzed many possible teams here on Locked On Big Ten. You've been part of it. You've listened and watched. We've analyzed teams like Florida State. Are they coming or not? Are they leaving the ACC? Miami, North Carolina, Virginia, even Notre Dame. One team we really haven't discussed is Utah. Why Utah? Well, some people are talking about it, writing about it. It's out there. So we thought we'd bring it to a head and discuss it here. Plus, Coach Kyle Whittingham, at Utah, he has said publicly that it seems like college football is heading down the path of just two superpower conferences with the Big Ten and the SEC. Here we are. So they're going to have to find a home someday. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. They just moved. The next move we all got to wait for is the implosion of the ACC. When that happens, it'll be like cherry picking teams between the Big Ten and the SEC. Once the dust settles, where does that leave a pretty good football program like Utah? Now they've parachuted from the Pac-12 and they've gone to the Big 12. And at the time they went to the Big 12, Whittingham suggested that the Big 12 would probably not be Utah's last stop. Think about that for a minute. Did he know something at the time? Was he making an educated guess like we do a lot here? Either way, one football insider recently floated the idea of Utah returning with its old Pac-12 running mates in the Big Ten. As the Big Ten, of course, will have Oregon and Washington and USC and UCLA. And then maybe, even though the Big Ten is getting rid of divisions, maybe they'll go back to divisions. Maybe they'll have so many teams, like 24 teams. They'll have to have 4 groups of 6, maybe back to divisions. And maybe Utah joins Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, throw in Utah, throw in Nebraska. There's your 6 teams right there. The idea is being floated about. We always like to discuss it. I think it's a fascinating idea. At this point, I wouldn't rule out anything. Again, the key is when the thread from the sweater gets pulled, when the ACC falls apart, then it's going to be a mad scramble for everybody. That's what I think. That's what we talk about here a lot on Locked On Big Ten. So keep that in mind. Again, we'll love your opinions on that as well. But keep that in mind, and we'll continue with that. Right? Stay tuned. All right, Juwan Howard and Michigan. They've had a really bad year. So bad that their former coach and current Big Ten analyst, John Beilein, refused to comment on the Wolverines recently, even though that's part of his job to comment on teams. That's his job description, to come up with his opinions on teams. But maybe he feels too close to what's going on at Michigan, because since he's left, it's been spiraling out of control. When he was there, things were pretty good. And then when Beilein left for the NBA, Howard took over. He had some early success, but people will say, yeah, he had early success with Beilein's players, though. But since when they started going away and Howard's players started coming in, things haven't gone so well. Ever since a loss to UCLA in the Elite Eight in 2021, Michigan's 45-43. Very average. and this year has been much below average. Following Sunday's 23-point loss to Ohio State, Beeline said, I don't have a comment right now. I really don't have a comment, quote unquote. That was his comment on Big Ten Network. So things aren't going good. Doesn't look good for Howard once the season is over. Some have suggested, hey, how about bring Beeline back? But I don't think that's in the cards right now either. I don't think a guy like Beeline wants to deal with everything he's got to deal with in the NCAA now, because since he has left, NIL and all that stuff in transfer portal, that wasn't around when Beeline was coaching. So I don't think he's at an age or point of his life where he would like to jump back in and do all, and the topic of recruiting and all that. I don't think he'd want to do it. So I don't know what the next move is for Michigan, but we all get a feeling that a next move is coming. Of course, tonight, the Big Ten women's tournament gets underway with some action. 6:30 Eastern time, 13 seed Northwestern taking on number 12 seed Purdue. That's on Peacock tonight. 25 minutes after that game, 14 seed Rutgers and 11 seed Minnesota again on Peacock. And in men's action on Wednesday night, Northwestern is at Michigan State, 7 o'clock Eastern time on the Big Ten Network. That's the first game of a Big Ten doubleheader on Big Ten Network. Indiana is at Minnesota for the 9 o'clock game later on tonight. Hey, in addition to Locked On Big Ten, which we always encourage you to watch it and watch another episode when this one's over. But you can also catch on Locked On Sports Today. It's a 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube Sports. It's the only one. Check it out. And our shows are on there a lot as well. It's Locked On Sports Today. Go ahead and subscribe to that as well. Check it out. The first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right. You know what we like to do in this last segment of the middle of the week? We like to rank them. Our power rankings in the Big Ten. Men's basketball, we'll have them. These are important rankings because we're going to try and figure out which one of these teams are going to the NCAA tournament, which ones won't be. Still a lot of work to be determined with that, but we'll have it all right here in a minute on Locked On Big Ten. eBay Motors, passion, drive, patience. It's what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, looking good with some style, eBay Motors has got you covered. Over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride, every team, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And with all the parts you need at all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Get the dub, get the W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, it is now time to rank them. Our Big Ten men's basketball power rankings that we always like to do each and every week. And things are kind of settling in. Teams are slotting in the good, the mediocre, the poor. It's all kind of slotting together. So let's put that on the screen here. We'll take a look at it and we'll put it on full screen. If you're listening on audio only, we'll go through and describe it a little bit for you. Of course, at number one, got the Purdue Boilermakers out there, and they've been the class of the Big Ten all season long. Nobody's been better. I know Illinois tried to give them a little bit of a run this season, but couldn't quite do it. Of course, their last chance was last night, and they fell short. Illinois did. Purdue ends up winning. Purdue with 11 quad one wins and 7-0 against ranked teams this year. A surefire number one seed in the NCAA tournament once the Big Ten, of course, they'll be the number one seed of the Big Ten tournament too, getting that nice double bye in there as well. Illinois, pretty solid team. They may make some noise at the Big Ten tournament as well as the NCAA tournament. And they lost to Purdue on Tuesday. They got Iowa Sunday night. That closes out the season at Iowa. At number 3, we've got the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I've been very bullish on Nebraska all season long. Now, at the beginning of the year, they're like only winning games at home and losing on the road, but this is a fun team to watch. They got a nice inside-outside combo. They've got a great home court advantage there, but they're on the road at Michigan on Sunday. If they win that game, they will have won 6 of their last 7. A lot of so-called experts, not me, but a lot of so-called experts picked them in the bottom 4 of the Big Ten this year. They're in the mix here for a double bye. They can finish in the top 4, 10-0 in the conference at home this year. Congratulations, Nebraska. Been a great season thus far. At number 4, I'm going to put the Iowa Hawkeyes. You know, they were down at the bottom of, we were one of the experts that picked them way down at the bottom at the beginning of the season. And, you know, they could score, but they couldn't defend. But they're putting it together. They're so well coached. They have won 4 of their last 5. They're at 18 wins. They've got Illinois on Sunday, which will be tough, but maybe Illinois with a little bit of letdown since they weren't able to get over the hump against Purdue. And Iowa's got a shot at the tournament. They've got some work to do, but they've got a shot at getting at the NCAA tournament. At number 5, I've got the Northwestern Wildcats. They lost to Iowa at home, and they're fighting for a number 3 seed here. They've got Michigan State and Minnesota still left on the schedule. At number 6, the Wisconsin Badgers. This team was ranked in the top 10 at the beginning of the year. They're 2-7 in their last 9. They've just gone cold. Now, their resume was pretty good at the beginning of the year. They still got a good chance of getting in the NCAA tournament. If some of the committee members want to say, hey, you got to finish strong, that's not Wisconsin. But maybe Wisconsin did enough in the first half of the season that they'll be okay. But they are in a slump right now. But I got them at number 6. At number 7, I got the Minnesota Golden Gophers. They've got Indiana tonight. They're at 18 wins. But you know what? I don't know that Minnesota's going anywhere. They have a lack of quality wins. They didn't really schedule anybody tough in the pre-conference portion of the schedule. And I don't know where Minnesota's going, if anywhere. At number 8, Michigan State. Struggling early. They got hot for a minute. They're cooled back off now. They got Northwestern tonight. They need that win. They need that win against a good Northwestern team. Tom Izzo's streak of making the NCAA tournament 25 straight years is in jeopardy. So Michigan State's got some work to do. A win against Northwestern tonight helps. They got some work to do in the NCAA tournament to try, or in the Big Ten tournament to try and get into the NCAA tournament. All right, at number 9, I've got the Indiana Hoosiers. They're at Minnesota tonight. They've won 2 in a row. They beat Wisconsin and Maryland after that, but they had lost 4 in a row before that. Indiana kind of looks like it's sort of kind of finding itself right now, but it just feels like too little too late for the Hoosiers. At number 10, the Ohio State Buckeyes. What a great story. Not so great for Chris Holtmann, but since he got fired and was replaced by interim coach Jake Diebler, they've won 4 out of 5. So he's 4-1. They're up to 18 wins now. They play Rutgers. Maybe they get a couple wins in the tournament. What happens then? Ohio State could play themselves into the NCAA tournament after a horrendous year. They got turned around. All right, let's see the best of the rest on our list here. And we got Penn State at number 11. You know what? There were some good moments this year for Mike Rhodes in his first season. So we'll see about next year and Penn State. But they're at number 11. I got number 12, the Maryland Terps. You know, Maryland, they're a one-man team with Jameer Young. I know nobody else on the team's going to want to hear that, but he needed some help this year. He never really got it. But that's a good basketball player right there, and Jameer Young. At number 13, I got the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. 30-point win versus Michigan last week. And, of course, at the bottom of the barrel, we got the Michigan Wolverines. So that's it. Those are our rankings, our power rankings, our very own, not influenced by anybody else, just us, our Big Ten power rankings. We do that each and every week on Wednesdays. So I hope you enjoy that. And if you want to comment on it, many ways to hit me up, whether it be the rankings or anything else we talk about, or anything else that's on your mind regarding the Big Ten. Hit us up at Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten number 10. The website, Talk Big Ten, you see the scroll there on the bottom, talkbig10number10.com. And you can also get some merch there, pennants, hats, shirts. It's all right there on the website. And don't forget, you can leave comments on YouTube as well. Whatever you do, before you do anything else, feel free to subscribe, please. It will help us out. Subscribe. It's free. It just takes a split second, and you're good to go. Subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Afterward, feel free to watch another episode. And after that, check out Locked On Sports Today, our 24/7 streaming sports channel from Locked On YouTube. All that right at your fingertips. Want to thank you for checking us out here. We'll have all the latest. The women's tournament's underway, more men's basketball. And, of course, we've always got an eye on Big Ten football right here. Thanks for checking us out. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. See you next time.